One of the things, and I think I mentioned this before, the living labs. I was quite interested to read that on the website. So of course you have all these kind of different focus areas for the organization, but then you also have these living labs, which, if I understood correctly, they're kind of environmental setups where you're actually able to test some of the research outcomes in a, I guess you could say, a mock environment of where the eventual client would use that. Could you touch on that just for a minute? Because I thought that was quite interesting.
Absolutely. That is something that is not unique, but I think DFKI is doing. It's a key part of what we're doing as DFKI. That we're not just doing the research and then we publish a paper or transfer a piece of software to a company. A key part of our mission as the biggest research institute in Germany and Europe is also to communicate both to the public, but also to industry, right? So a good example, for instance, is the smart factory. So you might know Industry 4.0, this revolution that was actually started from DFKI. Wolfgang Walster, our ex-CEO, is the key person behind this this idea of a fourth industrial revolution, to a large degree powered by AI, that was a worldwide. It happened, right? Even in the U.S., it's spelled industry is spelled with IE instead of Y, at least in many cases. And so the Smart Factory is an organization where it's actually a lab at the FKI in our Kaiserslautern lab, where we work with industry. It's kind of an exhibition in some sense. It's a lab where you can visit, you can see the thing in operation, and you can experience it. They do seminars, they invite people. Actually, a lot of the lab actually they have an entire production line, but it's a modular production line, where they have different stations, but they can be, and you can roll them on and off, and they're modular. They connect to each other, so you can reconfigure the whole system. But each of the modules is actually being produced and designed with some of those industry partners. So it's actually also a center for the industry to come together to try these out, but also get engaged and show that their technology actually does implement a lot of BI and can integrate and work well with the technology from the other companies. And I forgot how many companies are members there, and even more are visiting this every year. I mean, this is a little bit difficult right now. I mean, that's the problem with living labs, and demonstration centers during the pandemic. That obviously works not as well, but we'll come back to that.
Might have to digitize them or make them available over VR over the next couple of years.
That's actually what we did. There was Hannover Messe this year, which is a big event for us. And particularly the Smart Factory lab, the Smart Factory was there and demonstrated a lot of that virtually. But it would be nice to be able to do this again in person, because particularly for production, right? You want to see that happening in front of you. That is a huge, very, very different experience than just seeing it on the screen.
Couldn't
other things are, we have a big retail lab that's actually it's a small supermarket, and it's actually located at a big supermarket's headquarter here in Germany. We do smart living, various other big robotics exploration laboratory, where we have halls actually for underwater robotics. It's a huge swimming pool where you can actually, industry comes in to test their system in our labs. And we have another hall which is for space robotics. You can essentially try robots on Mars, of course not in the same environment, but it's similar. So there's a lot of really interesting, it's this engagement with the community, but also with the general public and the industry that sets us apart there, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's also one of the things that might set Europe apart from, say, the United States, right? There's a really big focus on collaboration between industry players, between research institutes, as compared to the United States.
Yes, there is, but actually that's one of the areas where I can see a lot of improvement, and we're moving in that direction. I mean, I was at Stanford. I was a visiting assistant professor at Stanford for a while, so I experienced Silicon Valley firsthand.
Okay.
At least from the university side of things. But I was a visiting professor at NVIDIA for half a year as well. So that was my, also in Silicon Valley, that was my industry perspective. And what you see there, and what I think it's probably also somewhat unique to Silicon Valley, but it's this very early and close engagement between industry and research. They engage very early. The industry funds research very early, and it takes risk in doing so, right? Because that research might not work out at the end.
Yeah.
And in Europe, for a long time, that was very different. Essentially, research was publicly funded. A PhD did his work for 2-3 years, and when the research was done, that is when industry got interested. We did a project for 3 months or 6 months, sometimes longer, but that was rather rare, to transfer that result, and then often they left, right?
Right.
In an area of AI like it is today, right? Google has implemented this thing 3 times over before the company even starts here in Europe. And so one of the things we actually started here at DFTI is this idea of a transfer lab where actually industry comes in and we collaborate on a long-term basis. And as part of that, they're actually willing to fund basic research. Because they want to engage, they want to have those results as early as possible, adapt their production processes or whatever it is, and their how they operate.
Yeah.
And want to take advantage of these results as early as possible because they see this as a competitive advantage. And we have a dozen or more of them. It's not pervasive yet. It's still not all companies are ready for that yet, but this close collaboration that people are coming in and actually work with us in the same lab, at least, well, after the pandemic, I guess we'll have that again. So that's different. But we're getting there, or at least to some degree. Again, could be faster.
Yeah. Of course.
There are differences. I would say companies are more risk aware here, and that's also maybe if you allow for talking a little bit about there's a change or a difference in how AI is being used here in Europe.
Yeah, for sure, that'd be great.
Here, AI is probably. I mean, of course, we also have pure AI startups and you know, right, big AI. Purely AI-focused companies, but in Europe, I think there is a much stronger focus on using AI or injecting AI technology into existing companies and industries, right? So essentially strengthening and the existing companies, giving them a competitive edge by seeing how could AI change their production processes, their products, the way they operate, and things like that. I think there's a much bigger focus on that than maybe in other countries.